Hello, happy January 3rd, happy 2025. Welcome to our first reading vlog of the year. I'm going to be seeing how long it's going to take me to find my first 5-star of 2025. Get it together. We're solving a mystery here. What? Where did the plot go? I actually feel like this is a fever dream. This book feels like a fever dream. Smiling now, but I probably will not be smiling by the end of it. Now in 2024, I found 8 5-star reads, which I feel like is not a lot in comparison to reading. I think I read 138 books. I don't think I'm a harsh rater. I do think I'm a picky rater where I don't give out 5 stars very often, as you guys can see from last year. I think I just know what I like, and after reading more and more books, I just get a bit more picky with my readings. Like you guys saw, I started with Beautiful Ugly on January 1st by Alice Feeney. Now I chose this one because Alice Feeney, if you don't know, is my favorite mystery / thriller author. I read all of her books. This is her newest release that comes out this month in January. I did get an early copy of it. I tried to read it, I think, twice, so I put it down every time because I couldn't really get into it and I wanted to give it its fair time because, again, one of my favorite authors. I was anticipating this book, and then I got into a bit of a slump at the end of December, so I was waiting and saving this for this video specifically because, again, one of my favorite mystery thriller authors. I thought it had good potential to be a 5-star. This book is about our main character, Grady, who's an author, and his wife one day goes missing. It's now a year later, and he's going to this remote Scottish island where he's going to work on a new book because he hasn't been writing very often. And when he gets to this island, he sees a woman that looks exactly like his wife, and that is just very eerie. He's now down a new rabbit hole trying to figure out, like, is that his wife? What happened? What's going on? And like I said, this island is very remote. There's only 25 residents, and he's obviously meeting up with all of them, seeing like what part they play on the island in this story, and they're very suspicious. They're not very forthcoming, but when they do tell stories, they don't really add up to the other islanders, so you don't really know exactly what's going on. You're getting kind of the history of the island and in little pieces, so very suspicious. I don't think this is going to be a 5-star, which is really upsetting. Can you imagine the first book I pick for 2025 is a 5-star? We can all hope and dream for that, but not gonna happen for me this year. I don't really love following our main character, Grady. I feel like he's very robotic. He doesn't really have much of a personality, especially when things are shown or things that should be surprising or something that's like foreshadowing, or he kind of sees something that's a bit eerie, a bit suspicious. He doesn't really have like the best reactions to it. Like, it's not fun following along with him. Like, he's not really, well, he is like in on this. He's trying to figure things out, but he's not very fun to follow along with as a reader. And then for the plot, I'm very interested to see the ending because she has always gotten me with her plot twists, and I'm sure she'll get me again. I do have a theory because, again, she has some stuff that's like foreshadowing, but for the plot specifically, it feels a bit of like a slow burn mystery, which is really interesting. Like I said, I tried to start it like once or twice in December and I just like couldn't get into it, so it takes a bit to get into. I still think it's a bit slow. Again, you want to be on the edge of your seat when you're reading a mystery book. You want to be anticipating what's coming next, and I'm not really getting that feeling with this one, which I'm really upset about because, again, I was anticipating this book very highly. We'll see how it ends. Again, she always gets me, so I'm really excited to finish this one. We're gonna finish this one today, and then we'll start our next book. He just found out, or he just saw something, or something like in front of him, which is so surprising, and his reaction and what he's saying and thinking is just like not adding up. And I don't think this is part of like a plot twist. I think that's just how he's written as a character. It's just like the questions he's asking, I feel like they're just all the wrong ones. Something just happened and I like want him to be asking like the right questions. Like, I can't say it, but I want him to be like, again, can't say it. He just is so nonchalant and like not speaking up enough. And I'm like, Grady, get it together. We're solving a mystery here. Anyway, I don't like Grady. Okay, I did guess this. What we just read, I guessed, but there's like 35 pages left, so I think there's gonna be something else that she's gonna twist us with. But so far, I've guessed what's happened. Hello, happy January 6th. It's a beautiful wintry day. It's snowing. I woke up to snow and I'm so excited about it, but I finished Beautiful Ugly a few days ago. Like you guys saw, I ended up giving it 3 stars. This one I had high hopes for, again, because Alice Feeney is one of my favorite mystery authors. I say it all the time, but the story of this one felt, again, like a slow burn of a story, and it felt like the actual plot and what she was writing about majority of the time was just like a build up for the ending, if that makes any sense. So like not much was really happening, but all of these clues that we're getting and things that are being brought up and things that are a bit eerie but suspicious, they don't feel very exciting when you're finding out about them, but they're all used at the end to all like tie it together and make the surprise ending, and like the few plot twists that we get make more sense. So I feel like the actual story of it wasn't too grasping. I think maybe the first like 100 pages was a little bit slow to get into. It did end up holding my attention like halfway through and then towards the end, and then the end definitely got me. I guessed one thing, but I feel like that was easy to guess. Other than that, the ending like completely took me by surprise. I did not expect what she wrote about. Like every single book that Alice Feeney writes always surprises me. Like she is the queen to me of plot twists, and I love a good plot twist in a mystery. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I do also love a mystery that's kind of like adrenaline pumping, and this one doesn't really have that. Not my favorite by her, but I did have a good time towards the end of it, and I really liked the ending of it. I think it was a very fun plot twist I just did not see coming, but overall I don't think this is my favorite book by her, and I'm really upset about it because I had very high expectations for this one, but it was still a good read, just like not my favorite. So then, like you guys saw, I have been reading Fear the Flames. This one I started because for 2 reasons. One is our Bookmarked. If you don't know what Bookmarked is, Destiny and I have a podcast called Bookmarked if you want to go check out and listen to it. But we're starting this year picking a book and reading it kind of like an unofficial book club together, and Fear the Flames was our January pick. So I started it because of that, and also I was kind of in the mood after finishing Beautiful Ugly to read something that was more bantery. I wanted something more fun, entertaining, a bit high stakes, and that's, I feel like, exactly what this was supposed to give me, because the summary of it is about Elowin, which I think is such a beautiful name, but she is a princess, and she, when she was younger, was bonded to these dragons, and something happened, you find out like in the prologue, and she was like torn apart from her dragons and held like captive basically, and then she escaped. So she's kind of been hiding as a princess. She also has her own like territory, like she's also a queen of a land, and I'm not really sure how no one has found that out yet. So now she's going on this heist, and she's made an alliance and a deal with the commander of the enemy territory to her father, who's the king, who's the one that like exiled her. She made an alliance with him to perform this heist to get her dragons back and to kind of defeat the king. This one I like can feel in my gut is not going to be a 5-star. I thought it was going to be, because it's exactly what I was in the mood for, like what it said it was going to give, like romanticy and banter and high stakes and a heist. I love a heist, and it has dragons and everything and a princess, and you know, it's just not giving what I thought it was gonna give. The first thing that I noticed was the banter felt a bit forced. Like they met pretty early on in the book, our 2 main characters, and all of a sudden they're like banter bickering, and just like felt like the author was trying to make the readers like kind of like grasp onto that, but we don't really know them. We don't have the connection. There's no tension there. They don't really know each other at all. So it's like they're bantering and giving like this flirtiness to each other. It just was very awkward, I guess is the word I could use. And then the second time they're meeting, they're gonna talk about an alliance and everything. Right in the beginning, he says something about her being the princess, and she's like, how'd you know? How'd you find out? You're supposed to be in hiding. Like, I do not trust her to rule my kingdom. Like, she just easily gave up that she's won the princess, and she agreed to the alliance in like 2 pages. Like, took no work from him. And then last night I made a little Goodreads update post. I was like 22% of the way through. It just, nothing was making sense, and someone commented on my Goodreads update and had like the most perfect explanation of how I'm feeling about this book. It essentially feels like a collection of scenes. Like we're just getting from each chapter to chapter like random scenes. It doesn't feel like an established like storyline. Like nothing is really cohesive or making sense. Also, like in one random chapter there's a monster that's coming out of the water, and I'm like, where did this monster come from? Where is the world building? So all of a sudden someone has magic, and I'm like, what is this magic? Maybe explain it to me, give me some description. But aside from that, I'm definitely gonna finish it, even though I feel like I should DNF it. One, because I want to talk about it on the podcast and like things I didn't like from it, things I did like, because I am entertained even though nothing is making sense. I'm having a good time while reading it. Like I'm interested to see like how they perform this. But I will say though, I like Caden, who's our male main character. I like the way he acts. He's not very like grumpy or mean. Like he's actually kind, and I really like that. But it also is so interesting because when she banters to him, like kind of like makes fun of him and like pulls out his strings and like says, oh, he annoys me and all this stuff. But I'm like, why are we like trying to force the enemy situation here? Like, you're not enemies. You have an alliance together. You were never enemies to begin with. If anything, you have a common enemy, a common person you're trying to take down. I just like everything our female main character is doing like doesn't make sense to me. So those are all my scrambled thoughts that I've been thinking the past couple of days of reading this. I definitely want to finish it though, because I do want to see how this ends. I think it's going to be a series. I probably won't continue the series, but I'm definitely intrigued enough and entertained enough at least. And it's pretty short for a fantasy. It's like 370 pages, so I feel like that's not too bad. Maybe it'll get better. I'm not even halfway yet, so maybe at that point it could get better. I know that was kind of like a lot, but I was like thinking about a lot as I've been reading this and I haven't updated in a while. I'm gonna go hang out, read some more, and I'll give you an update of how the rest of it goes. Okay, I'm definitely further in than this morning. I've been reading for a few hours now, and I'm honestly glad I didn't DNF this book, even though I still feel like there's no world building, no explanation of any type of magic or the dragons or like anything. Nothing is really explained, but I guess like after like 40% of the book, the romance and banter started to make more sense, and I started to understand our characters a little bit more, and more so Caden. I really started to like him and the things that he was saying. I've never really read, or I guess like not off the top of my head can think of a fantasy male main character that he's more like kind and also acts of service. Like I don't think I've ever seen like a fantasy man be acts of service, like doing things for her, also being like so kind in his words and like what he's telling her, and like the flirting is not just like banter flirting, like he's actually like really sweet. And some of the things he said I've highlighted because I was like, oh my god, you went there. And it was really cute and really sweet, and I really like him. They are actually really getting along, but I think we've lost the plot. There's like no plot happening at all. I think they've signed the alliance. I don't even know. I think they signed the alliance. We got like halfway through and finally the alliance is signed, but they randomly like went to the prison and then they left. Now they're back at like the king's palace, not her father, but like where Caden's from, and they're just kind of like hanging out here for a while while Caden does his duties, and I'm like, what happened to the plot? Where did the plot go? That's kind of an update. I'm enjoying Caden's character, waiting for the plot to come back around to like the heist and like the point of the story and the summary, but I'm still very entertained. Like I can't really put it down. It's very fast-paced, very digestible, but like doesn't really make sense sometimes, but I'm here for a good time with this one. There's so many things happening that just don't make any sense. How do you expect to take not one, not two, not three, many dragons out of a place where they're kept, not protected, but they're kept captive, and you expect to take them out with no one noticing? This plan that they have is so not foolproof. And every time I think they're getting closer to this heist and like making new steps, like I don't even know like the plan. There's no plan here, because every time I feel like they're gonna make a plan and they're trying to go through with some sort of plan, there's like a flirting scene, there's a spice scene just thrown in the wrong spot, and I'm like, am I the only one taking this seriously? Like throw me in, let me make a plan. I keep comparing this to Six of Crows for some reason, because there's no other fantasies that have a heist that's so mastermind and foolproof like that one. Like they're not getting caught. I am so surprised they have not gotten caught at like any step of their plan. I don't know what it's trying to do. It is so hard to understand what's happening. Nothing makes sense. What is going on? I have no idea what's going on. And I don't know why I'm getting so frustrated. I'm acting like this is like real. This is really gonna happen. And if it were, good luck. Every time I feel like we're on a good path, they start flirting. And I'm like, guys, this is not the time. Even though sometimes the things that Caden says, and like yeah, I like you, but like, do it at a later time, and this is not the time. I said it yesterday, like I've been entertained the whole time. even though I don't like it. I don't really know how that can like coincide with each other. Like I don't know how I'm entertained, but I just like don't like anything about what's happening. Nothing is making sense, but I'm interested to see how this ends. I actually feel like this is a fever dream. This book feels like a fever dream. How do they do it? How do they do it? I don't... I finished Fear the Flames last night. I don't really have much else to say. I do want to go through and kind of like skim through the indie version because I feel like maybe some of the stuff they cut out would have made more sense for like the context of the story. Did I feel entertained? Yeah, I said that many times, but like nothing added up. And every like 100 pages there would be mention of a monster or a god or a goddess or a priestess or something with no context. Like I said, like no world building was happening. Like nothing made sense. It ended up just feeling, especially like the second half of it, more of a romance with like fantasy things happening around. Like they got off so easy with everything they did. There was no like high stakes. I wasn't on the edge of my seat. Again, I think I was the only one that took the heist seriously, which was kind of annoying, but yeah, I think I just had higher hopes for it. Again, I assumed it would be a 5-star if it's in this video, maybe closer to a 5-star, but yeah, I ended up giving it 2 stars. I just did not enjoy it. We'll have more thoughts, more spoiler opinions if you've read it on the bookmarked episode, the first one of February. We'll be talking about it, but I just did not like it. My next read, like you guys saw, is a potential and anticipated 5-star, which is Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna. This one may be close to my heart when I finish it. One, because I love Kristen Hanna and her writing's my 4th book by her. Her storytelling is so amazing. She really like transports you into what she's writing about. She writes historical fiction, or at least the books I've read by her are historical fiction, and it literally feels like you're there with the characters. She like paints such a vivid picture. Her writing style is very simplistic, but it packs a punch, and by the end of it, you don't realize how connected you are, and all of a sudden you're just like sobbing. So if all of her other books have done that to me, I'm assuming this will too. We have 2 sisters who, when they were growing up, their mom would tell them fairy tales. Their mom has been very cold to them. They don't really talk other than when she's telling her these fairy tales. Now it's the year 2000 and the older sister is 40, the younger one's like 37 or something. They have their lives. One's a mom with kids and the other one is like traveling around. She's a photographer. But the one thing that has kept their family together, even though they're not close to their mother, is their father. But unfortunately, he is sick and he may not make it, or they don't think he's going to make it. So he is telling his daughters, like, please just listen to your mom, ask her again to tell you the story of the fairy tale, and just like really listen to her. His one wish before he passes is for them to rekindle the family dynamic and talk to their mother, but you can kind of see the mom is just very cold, very closed off, and you don't know why. But the back of the book says that it takes place in 2 timelines. So 1941 Leningrad in Russia, and then in the year 2000 the mom is going to tell their daughters the story of like her life in Russia. And again, I said this one might be close to my heart because Leningrad is actually part of Russia my mom is from. If you don't know, she traveled here when she was younger from Russia. She grew up there and she's told me her stories and things about traveling from here and her life there, and the things in the snippets I know about her stories is really interesting, and I'm interested to see just the way their mom is going to be like telling her story about being from Russia and like the same part that my mom's from. So maybe the only book, if I do give it a high rating, maybe a 5-star, that I can get my mom to read because it is about her home. So yeah, very excited about this one. Again, it is a potential very anticipated 5-star read. I will give you guys updates as I go, but the weather outside, you saw this morning, it feels like 10 degrees out. It is so cold, so windy, it's been snowing. This is one of the books I tried to read in December, and I did end up soft DNFing it because I wasn't the time for this book. I wanted to give it its moment because I knew I was gonna like it. So now I feel like it's the perfect time to pick it up again. The weather outside is just like very parallel to the weather that is happening in this book. It is winter, it's snowing, it's freezing cold. So her writing is so fast paced, so I feel like I can sit and I can binge. And I'm just very excited about this one. I'm hopeful. So we'll see how it goes. a bit of an update. I feel like the beginning of this book, and honestly I felt this as a common theme in all of the Kristen Hanna books I've read so far, is she has kind of like a slower build up and slower setup of the story and getting to know the characters, and I'm a bit conflicted on how I feel about that, because on one hand the slow setup and getting to know the characters feels like it's so drawn out that I get a bit bored, but I know that she's doing it with intention, so that's like the other side of it, where like I will appreciate the slow build up by the end of it and how I don't realize how connected I am to the characters, but without the slow setup and like getting to know our characters so deeply, even if nothing's really happening, we're just like going along their day-to-day of what's going on at this moment, but we get to know them and their personalities and how they act so much that by the end of it I appreciate it. So I don't really know. Right now I feel like the setup of this one especially is really slow, but again, I'm going to appreciate that by the end of it. And what I love that Kristen Hanna does in all of her books, all of her characters that she writes about are not picture perfect. Like, they have flaws, especially these two sisters. They're doing such different things in their lives, but like one of the sisters specifically, the way she reacts to things and the way that she's dealing with the grief and the way that she talks and is going through her life obviously stems from her childhood, like we saw, like how her parents both treated her and how she is with her mother and the way that she reacts to things. Sometimes I'm just like so frustrated and I'm like, I need you to like use your words or like speak on it, but that's just not how she acts like personally, and that's like true to real people in real life. Everyone has different personalities and things that they deal with. Like, all of her characters are never picture perfect, but I think that's why I'm able to connect with them so much, because I can see them as like real people and having real characteristics that real people have. So again, it's a slow setup, it's a slow start, but we're kind of getting more into right now. It kind of started up again, the fairy tale and the stories their mom told their daughters when they were younger. One of the daughters thinks that the mom is being a little bit loony, like she's losing it in her old age and because of the grief, but in reality, she's just thinking about her past, and the winter time specifically is a hard time for her mom. Like, her father knew that, but her father's the only one who knew her, so now it's time for the daughters to kind of step up and understand their mom better, but the only way to do that is through the fairy tale story. So the storytelling of this and the plot of this is so interesting. Like, instead of the mom sitting down their daughters and telling them her past, she's saying it in a fairy tale type of way, and I think that's such an interesting way to kind of like tell the story. I'm interested to see what happens and kind of why the mom acts the way she does and like what her past really was. So I feel like this one, as all her other ones have, is going to emotionally hurt me. So I'm smiling now, but I probably will not be smiling by the end of it. So next book, perfect setting. It is so cold out. I can kind of see my breath. This is the perfect book for the winter, and I think this is gonna be a 5-star. I'm manifesting this out verbally right now. The first two have been a 5-star, so this one should not let me down. Okay, Before I get into the winners, I do want to talk about Winter Garden really quickly. Like you guys saw, I did give this one 4 stars. Now I did expect it to be a 5-star, and I do think this is a moving story, and the storytelling of this was pretty amazing. And just like being in the timeline of the past and like through the fairy tale and seeing what their mother went through, it was such a tough story and the fairy tale to read about. But what I did like of the way that she told it is we knew it's the mother's story, but there's like this mystery still within it when you're like reading along with the fairy tale, that you don't know which character is the mom in the story. Like there's a lot of women that are being talked about in the fairy tale, and again, that's one thing I love that Kristen Hanna does, is just like strong women, especially during war times, and like seeing what they were doing and how they were holding the fort down. Also, sorry if I sound sick, it's been a rough few days, but I gave it a 4-star because we didn't really start learning the story of the mom and getting into all of that until like 50%, like halfway through the book, and the start was a really slow build up. And like I said, I'm kind of like iffy on how I feel about it because I was super connected to them by the end of it because of how much we got to know them in the beginning. But I do think it was a little bit too slow of a start, but then again, we had to break down the mom's walls to actually get her to say the fairy tale. So again, I'm conflicted on that, but I think initially I was bored as I was reading some of the parts and as we were like getting the build-up of the story going, so that's why I give it a 4-star. Also, I don't think I'm as connected to these characters specifically than like all of her other books and how I felt for those ones. Again, it's such a story about hardships but also family and relationships, and I loved seeing these women go from being so cold to each other, not really knowing anything about each other, and gone through so many years of their lives just being not a part of each other's lives, to seeing them kind of mend their relationships and learn more about each other, which in doing that kind of helped them learn more about themselves. So I really like seeing them all grow in this, and also learning the past about their mom along with them. Like it was such a, again, hard story, but it is a history that has happened, and it's made me want to now go and talk to my grandparents. Now, I was reading the fairy tale in my mind, kind of in how my grandparents have their Russian accent, and I was reading it in their thick accent, and I was like, this feels so vivid of how they would tell me their story. So this book definitely makes you leave and want to go ask questions to family members or people that you love before it's too late, and not missing out that chance and having regret of not asking these questions and knowing their stories and where they came from, because it truly is like everyone, even though you kind of forget it, like your grandparents and your parents, they've had a life before you, and it's easy to forget that. And I think it had such a great theme of that, and the way that it was told through the story by the end of it, I was really moved, I was touched. And also the ending, Kristen Hanna always has some emotional pull, and this one obviously had that as well. I would recommend this one. I really enjoyed it. It was fast-paced as all of her books are, but I just think, again, the build-up and everything, it was a bit slow. But yeah, this one's a 4-star. It was still a really good book. The Winners is by Fredrik Backman, 3rd book in the Beartown trilogy. The first book I read sometime last year, I think like April of 2024, and then I reread it in December. Gave it a 5-star, read the second one, Us Against You, gave that a 5-star. Started this one, got into a little bit of a slump with this because it's a really thick book, it's very dense, and I felt that he was repeating a lot of what happened in the second and the first book. So I put this down, I got into a huge slump, and I was like, I know I'm gonna love this book because I love his writing, I love this story, I love these characters. So I wanted to give it its fair chance, and I think this is the perfect moment for it. Like, the setting outside could not be more perfect for some of the books that I have read in this video, and also, well, I guess just the last one. It was perfect for that one. I don't even remember the first book we read. Oh, Beautiful Ugly. Anyway, it is perfect because this takes place in a hockey town. I can't really say too much of what this one's about, but something very tragic happened in Beartown in the first book, and you see how that affects the person it has happened to, but also the town, everyone around it, and everyone's like morals are in question. And Fredrik Backman does such an incredible job of writing in all these different characters' point of views. Like, you get a lot of characters, and the way that he can talk about this one thing that has happened in so many different perspectives, it's just such a talent, and I love the way that he wrote it with such care also. So the second one is kind of like repairing the town and learning more about the characters, but how much the town has been broken down, trying to rebuild itself also with the characters. And then the end of that one is crazier than I expected. Like, it had my adrenaline pumping, and I feel like his stories don't really have that. They're kind of more mellow throughout the way his writing is. And then into this one, the first page of this, if you have read it, it's a scary thing to read because it's about one of my favorite characters, and I'm like, you don't know what he's gonna do. You just don't know. I'm like 99% sure this is gonna be a 5-star. So I guess we're just gonna have to see. 13th. It has been 13 days since I've started this video, but I can proudly say I am a little over halfway of the winners. The past few days I've had such a cold, so I haven't really been able to like talk or like get thoughts together. I've just kind of been reading and hanging out and drinking my tea, but today I'm feeling so much better. Thankfully, fingers crossed it stays like this. So like I said, I'm a little over halfway, and I can't say too much about this book. Obviously, it's the third in a trilogy, the final book in a trilogy. But what I love so much about this one is we met new characters in the second book in Us Against You, and Fredrik Backman has kind of put together in a few scenes and characters from the second one that had problems with each other and did not get along, kind of like almost enemies, has them kind of with each other and kind of allies in this one, working together. And there also has been a lot of heartbreak that's happened pretty early on in this book. I knew this was going to be heavy as well, because throughout the whole entire trilogy, the theme has just been such heavy things going on, and just the things he's talking about and how he kind of like wraps it all together. Some heavy stuff, but a very tragic thing, I guess we can say, happened earlier on that I just did not expect. And it's crazy how still through this book, and such a long book, it still goes back to hockey, ice hockey and Beartown hockey, and how it is seriously like the pivotal like center of the entire town. And it's also crazy seeing characters from the first one, and this is taking place a few years after the first one, so they're obviously older now, but how a town like this, a small town, and the people in it can bring people up so high but then tear them down so hard. Like there's one character, and I'm not talking about one of the mainer ones, but there's one who was kind of a main one in the second book. Really enjoyed their character, and I was so excited to see like their growth and where they were gonna go, but the town built them up so high that they're just like kind of in such a low point right now. And I'm really hoping, like I know Fredrik Backman, especially just in this trilogy specifically, does not give anyone a break, so I'm kind of hoping at least for one character they can have a happy ending. But right now nothing is really going right. They're kind of investigating some things. We have that situation going on, and there's so many character point of views that we're getting, so like there's so much happening at once, and everything kind of just like ties together. Like two characters that we just met are investigating something going on in the town, and then two other characters that you don't expect to be together, something big happened that brought them together, and now they're trying to figure something else out. And then you have all of like the kids and like what's going on with them. And there's one new character that we met as well. I will say his name is Mateo, and I just, every single chapter in his point of view is short but heartbreaking, and I'm hoping that he also has a happy ending. Like maybe he'll meet one of the other characters, and I don't know. I'm really just hoping for happy things, but I have seen lots of people say the book is not gonna end happy or happily, so I'm just nervous, that's all. But I can't put it down. Like I am just like binge reading it. Yesterday I was on page like 100 something. Oh, hold on, I think my tea is done, and I just can't stop reading. His writing is just so, like I just want to ingest everything he's ever written ever. So I am really enjoying it, even if it's not the happiest story ever. And I've noticed books that I really like connect with and love, either not a heartbreaking but pull out emotions within me, and either it's like a happy emotion, I'm giggling, I'm happy, I'm giddy, or it's like I feel for the characters, like they feel real, and the author has made them feel so realistic that I feel what they feel and what they're going through. And that side is definitely what Fredrik Backman does. So I don't know, I might have predicted correct. This series, having 3 books in a series all be 5 stars is kind of crazy. Like that is such a talent thing to do, because usually it's like the first one's really good and then it kind of goes downhill, or the first one's okay and then it gets better and better, but like it's just been all around really good. So we'll see how the end goes and how the second half of this book goes, and it'll solidify my rating on this. Oh, I love every time he speaks there's also exclamation points in his quotations, and I just he's so pure, and I just really love him. And the other character I really love is Anna. She is one of the teenagers in the town, and she has a lot in her personal home life, but seeing her with Maya and their friendship, but she brings this comedic relief to the story. Like I just giggle every time she says something, like just very simple. Maya's mom comes into the room when the girls are in, and she's like, I need you guys to not tell this person, like trying to get them to keep a secret. And Anna for some reason assumes Maya's mom is having an affair, and she goes, sorry Kira, but I have to say, if you're gonna have an affair, I think you could do a lot better than him. You're pretty damn hot. There are probably loads of men who. And then
Maya just starts laughing and laughing and laughing, and Anna is just such the perfect friend for Maya. They are so different, but Maya needed someone like Anna in her life, and it's just so, I just love reading their scenes together. That was good. There's also, last night I read this quote, and I just love the way he describes things. Like, it'd be so simple. Like, he was, I think, describing how the seasons change in Beartown really quickly, and all of a sudden from summer to the first cold day like sneaks up on you. But the way he said it, I really liked the way he described it. Let me see if I can find it. When you, oh no, that's not it. Okay, now that I'm flipping through, there's actually a few I want to say, but let me try to find this one first. We'll start there. Okay, I literally can't find it. Anyway, I guess we'll start here. I can't find the one about the weather. I feel like I dreamed it, but I swear I underlined it. Let me sit here and find it. Oh, okay. Just the first one that can't really be described in words, no matter how many years you've experienced it. The first one when you've already accustomed to it, when the cold feels normal rather than the exception. Summer is long dead, but tonight is when we lose our memory of it. The last light slides away and a sack is pulled over the town. Tomorrow suddenly our fingers won't remember life without gloves. Our ears can't quite remember the sound of bird song. And the soles of our feet have forgotten all about puddles that don't crunch when we step on them. And it just is like perfect timing to read this because it has been so freezing, and I loved the way that he described it. It's just like a one long paragraph, and all he could have said is, it's freezing out. It's now the winter. And then the other one that I really liked, oh no, tell me I lost it. Talking about marriage specifically, but it says there ought to be a different word for it once you've been married for enough years, when you've long since passed the point where it stopped feeling like a choice. I no longer choose you every morning. That was a beautiful thing we said on our wedding day. I just can't imagine life without you now. We are freshly blooming flowers. We're two trees with intertwined roots. You've grown old within me. I just love the way he describes things so much in that one specifically. I know I'm not married by any means, but I just love the way that he describes love and grief and so many different topics and things that people go through. I think he has such a talent of knowing everyone's perspective in this book in such a real way. Like, I don't know how he can be in so many people's shoes and describe what they're feeling and what they're going through with such like care and also so much almost knowledge. Like, being in Anna's point of view, or Maya especially's point of view, or the parents' point of view, I think is easier because he is a father, but being in like the elder people's or the people that are just not good, I think he does such a good job of making them so distinct. But it's like he's walked these people's shoes and like all these different types of people and like been in their lives before. It's so interesting. But I also know when I start annotating a book and really thinking about the quotes and really loving the writing is another tell of how much I love the book. It's like almost speaking to me. But this one definitely, it's almost like nothing's going on. He's just like writing a bunch of different scenes in these characters' lives, and like it's almost making a full picture, but like not really. If you've watched the movie We Live in Time, it kind of reminds me of that, because in that movie it's about this couple, how they met and their lives becoming a couple and all these like pivotal moments in their lives. But the way they show you in the movie is like it starts out with them when they had a baby, and then it'll flash backwards until they didn't know each other, they just met, and then it flashed forwards until the end of it, and it like kind of shows you glimpses and snippets of their lives and big moments of their lives, kind of like that, like out of order. And it's kind of how he tells the story, because we already know things that happen in the future. He like foreshadows so hard, kind of like tells you straight up what's gonna happen, but then he'll fall back into like way in the past, and then also like in the present. Like he flips around different timelines of what's going on in the characters' lives. So there's almost a plot, but I feel like there's not really much of a plot. I'm here for everything that he's giving me. I didn't think I was gonna update right now, but I did, and those are my thoughts, and I'm gonna go back into it. I have 30 pages left, and I'm terrified. Like, I genuinely am so terrified to see how this ends because of how much he has foreshadowed and just like what I think is about to happen. This is not gonna be good. Okay, I need headphones, hold on. is so sad. We have, if you couldn't tell and you couldn't guess by my reactions and thoughts and feelings, but we have found my first 5-star of 2025. Honestly, I had a feeling that was coming, but again, it sometimes is hard reading more and more books in a series or a trilogy or whatever and having them continuously be 5 stars. Like, that is such a hard thing to do. Like, maybe there's a 4-star, a 3.5, but like having all 3 books in a trilogy be 5-star is just like so incredible, and it truly has like moved me, this trilogy. Like, I don't think there's gonna be many other things that I read that are similar to this, especially in the writing style, and that's how I feel. On a whole different note, my first video I ever did like this, I found the Magnolia Park series, and that's one of my favorites as well for its own other right. Obviously, it's a totally different genre in itself and writing style, but it's like the writing style that I found with Jessa's writing in the Magnolia Park series is one that I know I'm not gonna find in any other book. That's exactly how I feel about Fredrik Backman and his writing style. Like, I know no other author is going to be able to write and tell a story the way he has, specifically with this trilogy. It's crazy how the first book, something traumatic happens, and that one thing that happens snowballs the effect of the whole entire trilogy. This one more specifically is how bad people sometimes do good things and sometimes good people do really bad things, and you kind of just don't know the morals of people until you're in their circumstances and you know what they've been through, and then you can kind of understand them a little bit, understand why they do what they do, and how every single choice you make dictates how your life goes. Like, one choice that every single character made in the first book creates this whole snowball effect for how each of their lives go. And I love the way that he wrote the foreshadowing for everything. And as soon as I read the first page, I shut the book. I remember the first time I read it, I was like, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this heartbreak. But the way the story is told, specifically in this one, how long it is, how thick of a book it is so wonderfully and beautifully done. I will say, like I said earlier on, how the beginning is a bit of a slow build up, and the talk of kind of like the politics within the town and the politicians and stuff, I feel like sometimes got a bit too descriptive in that sense, and it lost me sometimes. But other than that, that's just like a small percentage of the book. I am so sad to be leaving these characters and this town, the town of Barrettown. Like, I just can't believe it's not real. It's not a real place. This also has such heavy topics talked about, and honestly throughout the whole trilogy there is. Specifically the first one, I would look up trigger warnings before you read it, but even going into the third one, I would look up, if you are sensitive to certain heavier topics, to look up what he talks about in here, because again, sometimes he'll bring stuff up very vaguely and sometimes in short scenes, but they are heavier topics. Fredrik Backman also has this talent of giving you so much hope on one page, and then you flip the page and it's like everything is completely torn down. Like, I'm tearing up, I'm crying, I feel so bad for my favorite characters, and he just like can flip a switch so quickly and so easily, but the way he does it is like so masterful. Like, I just feel like he's a mastermind in the way that he storytells and switches things up in such a short scene, and I just feel like I know them so well now. Like, I want to read 100 more scenes with these characters. So maybe a couple quotes that I underline. Here's a good one. It's very close to the end of the book, but it says, "We try to just live our lives, live with each other, live with ourselves, accepting joy when we find it, bearing grief when it finds us, and being amazed at our children's happiness without falling apart when we think that we can never really protect them." And one thing, like I said, that Fredrik Backman does so incredibly, that I don't even know how he's able to depict so many different relationships in books so perfectly, but like mother with her children and just parenting in general, and a father and a daughter, a father and a son, but like in so many different circumstances, and also best friends. One of like the main things that is even brought back around from the first book through the second one until this one, like all the way towards the end, is like you never have the same friends as you do when you're younger, and as your lives change and grow older, like they're still not the same as they are as your best friends when you're younger. And he kind of just like has these little sentences that come full rounded to the end of the last book, and it's like it just feels so full circle, and he's able to just be in the perspectives of all of these different characters and their roles in the community, in the town, and just in their lives, and portray them so well, and how like a mother feels in certain situations, or how a son feels in certain situations, or a friend feels. And it's just, I don't know how he does it so perfectly, but he truly does. Like, his writing is unmatched. And one other thing that's also talked about, or I forget who says, actually I remember exactly who says it in the first book, but it's like, what is life other than moments? And that is kind of like the theme of the whole entire trilogy. Like, you're just reading little moments and scenes in all of these characters' lives. And there's a lot of characters that you're following along with, but the whole trilogy is just him telling you stories and giving you these moments and how impactful little things are to the trajectory of the whole entire trilogy and all these characters' lives. And I really don't know how I can explain it in any way to make it understandable unless you just read his writing and read this trilogy. But again, definitely look up trigger warnings before you go into them. This one says, what is life other than moments? What is laughter other than a small victory over sorrow? A single moment, just one, when everything inside us isn't broken. There's a lot of complicated characters and the choices they make are their choices, and you see how that kind of affects everything. And I feel like I'm making no sense and I'm kind of talking in circles, but it's a 5-star and I love it so much and I love this trilogy so much. I actually have never cried so hard. Actually, I probably have, but like I haven't in a while towards a book and characters and like knowing I'm saying goodbye to them, but in so many different ways. And this was just such an incredible story about just a small town, a small ice hockey town, and a rivalry between Beartown and the town next to it that goes on for so long, and I'm gonna miss them. And I can't believe how amazing this story has been throughout all three of them, but this one definitely packed a punch for sure. So I'm so happy to say that this video is over and that I have found my first 5-star of the year. If you're gonna read this trilogy, let me know if you've read this one. Let me know which one's your favorite. I honestly don't know which one out of all of them are favorite, because the way that he rounds the whole entire trilogy out in the end of this one is like incredible. Like, just like the last sentence of this book made me like sob. Like, he just did it so perfectly, and you can kind of tell he gave his all into this, so I commend him. I am very happy that I finished the trilogy and I can check that off my list, but I'm so sad I can't read it again for the first time. And that's when you know you love a book so much, is that you just want to be immersed in the world with the characters and they feel real to you, and I love them. Not all of them, but I do love the story and I love his writing so much. It is just so unique and it stands out to me. Here's my first 5-star of 2025. Thank you guys so much for coming along this journey with me. It took a few weeks, but honestly, if I didn't have this trilogy I was in the middle of, I don't even know what I could even think would be my next 5-star, but I am happy that I did end up finishing the trilogy, reading this book, finding a 5-star in it. There's nothing like a 5-star, like truly. There's nothing like it. So let me know your first 5-star of the year if you've gotten it yet, if you've read it yet. If not, come back when you find it and let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all hopefully in the next one. Bye!